Oh, yes. What's happening, everybody? It's Tuesday night, and I got an ear-to-ear smile right now on my face because we got UFC 285 coming up this Saturday. On the heels of a couple of just below average cards from a name standpoint, we've got a way above average card, which is what they have to do when it's a pay-per-view. They can't shove these Apex garbage cards down our throats. They gotta step up to the plate. They gotta do a little bit better when they're charging $80 to watch 5 fights and when they're trying to sell out an arena. And they're going to Vegas. My boy Brady's going to be there in attendance. I'm sure a lot of you guys are as well. Those of you from the Las Vegas fight community. And yeah, this is 14 fights from bottom to top. We got some really fantastic spots here. Some really good fights, some really interesting stylistic matchups, and some great names on this card. 2 title fights. We've got the debut of Bo Nickal. We've got Mateusz Gamrot versus Jalen Turner. We've got Dricus du Plessis versus Derek Brunson. We've got Trevin Jones versus Cody Garbrandt. This is a stacked card from top to bottom, and we got some interesting prospects on the bottom half of this card as well. So I'm really looking forward to breaking it down with all of you guys. Wanted to say what's up to everybody in the chat, but first let's have a quick recap of what we did last weekend. Very good week for me, up a little bit over 4 units last week. We cashed a max 5-unit bet on the Mike Malott Johan Leoness fight. Doesn't go to decision. In addition to that, we had another unit on that fight for the under 1.5 at plus 125. We also had 1 unit on the Jordan Levitt money line. Did not see the knockout coming. His striking looked much improved. I said on the show that I didn't think he would even be at that big of a striking deficit because since Victor Martinez needs to be in the pocket to be effective and he was going to be smaller, shorter, and not throwing nearly as many kicks, I actually thought Jordan would have some success on the feet, but I did not see him actually winning minutes and moments there, which is exactly what he did. I really thought he would take him down and sub him, but we won a unit there. The only bet that didn't cash was a quarter unit on Gabriela Fernandez to win by KO at plus 700. She was clearly the superior striker, but Jasmine Jasdavicius did a fantastic job of getting that fight to the ground and keeping it there. Fought a really smart game plan, and it worked against Gabriela and her subpar takedown defense. So yeah, up a little bit over 4 units. Snapped a 2-week losing streak there, which was about a little close to 8 units in losses. So it was good to get half of that back. Looking to get the other half of that back this weekend here after we break down all these fights, after we find these spots. Then we're going to find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks on this card. Want to see what's up to everybody that's in the chat right now. We have got Johnny Bones Jones, the first one in the room, ladies and gentlemen. He is going to be headlining this card, making his long-awaited return after 3 years off, up a weight class against Cyril Gane, saying, Weezy, my man, what's good, homie? Do you know what time it is? It's Bones time. I'm back. I'm feeling better than ever, fresh at heavyweight, hungry to win gold. Let's win, says Bones Jones. Cannot wait to see this young man back in the octagon after all this time away, up a weight class. There are going to be a lot of questions that get answered in that fight. And Mr. Bones says like and subscribe because Bones says so. So you don't even have to listen to me when I tell you to like and subscribe this video and to the channel. Listen to Bones Jones, the greatest of all time. M.A. Laren in the room saying, Oi, Unc, can I watch you live? But I will be catching up later today. Thank you for your work. I appreciate you, M.A. Laren. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for the comment. We got my guy Victor De Jesus in the room saying, Oi! Yes, what's up, Weezy in chat? What a great card we have coming. Let's stack them high. Let's get those flapjacks. Victor, I'm hungry. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to eat this weekend. We got J-Bone in the room saying, Oi! It's way past my bedtime, but we're here. I love it, man. We're going to get to work here tonight. We got Cole Stein saying this card is amazing. Let's hope for great fights and stacking cash tickets. Oh, thanks, Cole. Appreciate you, brother. We got Silky B in the room saying, woo, love you, man. What's up, Silky B? We got James Vidal saying, let's go. We got Papa Chuck in the room saying, let's stack those flapjacks and clap the bookies' cheeks. Let's do it, man. And James saying, love you so much. Right back at you, brother. We got Daz Files saying, let's go. We got Corey Mann saying, oi. We got Daz Files saying, huge card, and I couldn't agree more. We got DJ saying, oi. Let's get it, Weezy. What's up, DJ? We got my guy Kiwi from Down Under in the room saying, Churral. What's up, Kiwi? Good to see you in here, brother. We got Lou Betya in the room saying, oi, Weezy. What would be a reasonable line for Bo to win by Pickett weighing in and then running away with his show bonus right to Alaska FC? Plus 225 is where I would line that. I mean, meaning that, we're looking at about maybe 31% implied probability of that happening, which I think is higher than what most people would think. But that's where I would line it. This is going to be a rough night for Jamie Pickett. Bo Nickal, we'll talk about him later, but I'm gonna give you guys just a little bit of a sneak peek right now, okay, into the show that's gonna happen shortly after we get through these intros. But look, I'm picking Bo Nickal to win this fight. All right, you heard it here first. I'm gonna be the first one to step up here to the plate, to put that bat in my shoulder, to look that pitcher right in the eye, say throw that heat right down the middle, because you know what's coming back your way, a Bo Nickal win. And you heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen. So I think this kid's going to pull this off. But, we got to see how this all shakes out at the end of the week when this card starts on Saturday. But I'm really looking forward to it. We got DJ in the room saying, between all the big favorites, Valentina, Shavkat, Ian Garry, and Bo Nickal, who do you think is most likely to shit the bed? I think it would be Shavkat, because I hold Shavkat's opponent in the highest esteem out of all four of the opponents there. Valentina really is the greatest of all time at 125 pounds. Shavkat's being lined as if he is the greatest welterweight of all times already. Jeff Neal is coming off a career best performance over Vicente Luque, doing something that you don't do, which is knock out the incredibly durable Vicente Luque. And he did that because he was landing big left hand after big left hand. And if he winds up hitting Shavkat with some of those type of shots, he's going to have a chance to pull off the upset here. Go Flamingo, ring a ding ding. The donation here saying up 20 units from last weekend and 30 for the entire year. Couldn't do it without you, Unc. And I couldn't be running channels like this without the support of the audience and you guys here. By joining the Patreon, by big upping that thumbs up button, by hitting that subscribe button, by donating to the channel. But the Patreon and donating to the channel are the best ways to support my work. So I truly appreciate everybody that does that, especially you, Go Flamingo. Thank you so much for the donation, brother. Really appreciate the kindness, my man. We got Banana Boat in the room saying, we be pubbing. We got the Cuban Assassin in the room saying, what it do, Weezy? Are those Techniques headphones behind you? Oh, anyways, let's go. Johnny Bones and yay, yo, let's go. Those are Sony headphones, but they are Techniques 1200 turntables, the industry standard for any DJ. These are the best turntables for spinning whatever it is that you prefer to spin. Pitch control, the perfect engineering for the DJ, for the discerning DJ, if you will. But yes, these are Techniques 1200s, my man. We got Victor De Jesus saying that Go Flamingo fire. Yes, sir. We got Go saying what's up to Victor. We got Doovy saying would suck if Nickal lost after all the hype he's gotten. That would be a wild if he lost this fight at minus 2,000 favorite right now. We got Lauren Williams saying, hit that like button, fellas. Thank you for hanging out, Lauren. Appreciate you. We got Lou Betya saying Bo was smashing this fool in the first. The era of Bo is upon us. And yes, it starts on Saturday. We got James S. in the room saying, yo. We got Juan Chavez saying, oi, finally made it to the live show. Listen, I appreciate all you guys. We've got 30 of you hanging out live here on Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I'm going to share my screen with you guys right now. And we are going to get into the stats. And we are going to talk about all 14 of these fights. And we're going to start with the curtain jerker. which is going to be two guys making their UFC debut. One of them will be making it on short notice. We have the fighting pride of Tajikistan, Loik Radzhabov at minus 270, squaring off against the fighting pride of Argentina, one Esteban El Gringo Ribovics at plus 230. And we got the fight doesn't go to decision at minus 160. Gringo is a word that I have heard quite a bit from my days working in the kitchen over at Lou Malnati's. The fellas there used to call me Pinche Gringo Grenudo, which they told me means very good friend in Spanish. So obviously these guys, they loved me. They thought I was absolutely awesome. So yeah, we got the Gringo in the room making his debut, and it is Loik Radzhabov, who's coming out of fighting at PFL, who's making this walk on short notice, everybody. He just took this fight, I believe, on Saturday or Sunday. So we've got about 6 to 7 days notice for Loik to make the weight here on short notice against the Dana White Contender Series product in Ribovics. So let's start talking about Ribovics here. El Gringo is an undefeated fighter out of Argentina. He's got an 11-0 record and a 100% finish rate. He's got 6 knockouts and 5 submissions. He's 5'10" with a 69-inch reach. So he's going to be the taller, longer, and the younger fighter in this matchup by 5 years here. It appears as if both Loik and Esteban have both trained at Killcliff FC, but it's been Loik who's been training there longer, from what I understand. I think maybe Esteban might have had a cup of coffee there before his Dana White Contender Series fight. So these guys might actually know each other. Laura Sanko said on DWCS that Ribovics showed a rare combination of possessing power on the feet along with being able to throw a ton of volume, which is a rare combination. A nice fix. He's got a nice mix of offensive weapons. In the Zaruz fight in Fusion Fighting Championships, Esteban got taken down almost immediately, but he reversed the takedown 1 second after he was on his back. He cranked on the Kimura and used that to get to Zaraz's back with one hook in. Zaraz got back up and tried to take down Esteban again, and he defended with the Kimura, and then he separated. On the feet, Esteban was switching stances. He's landing calf kicks. He's using his length really well and offering a variety of offensive weapons. Esteban landed a beautiful counter overhand right at the end of the first round. He easily won that first round versus Zaraz. Zaraz got another takedown to start the second. And again, Esteban went to that Kimura trap. That's something that we see him do quite a bit when his opponents are trying to take him down. He latches onto that Kimura. He either tries to get the submission or tries to use it to sweep or tries to use it to get back up. But either way, that's the way that I've been seeing him defend these takedowns. He successfully used that Kimura trap once again on Zaraz to sweep, to get on top of him. He got about 3 minutes of control time before the ref stood them up. And then Zaraz got another takedown to start the third, then a mat return, and then he tried to get the ease back, which he defended with, you guessed it, the Kimura trap. This time that didn't work, and Zaraz wound up on top of E. He tried to pass him out. E exploded, got back up. Zaraz got another takedown, but E got back up. He landed a nasty right hook to the head, followed with another to the body that dropped Zaraz, and he landed the first shot he threw, and it stunned him. So look, he absolutely destroyed Zaraz in all 3 rounds of that fight. Versus Basurto, Ribovics came out throwing hammers. The fight was over in like 7 seconds. He was just throwing power hooks right off the bat in that one. Absolutely quick work. In the Aranda fight, they clinched up briefly. He went for a trip that he didn't get. They separated. He landed a nasty left hook with Aranda coming in, and he slept him. And he was out before he hit the ground. 27-second knockout. He was wearing a purple belt around his waist after that fight, so I'm not sure if he was promoted after the fight there, but he's got at least a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And then on Dana White Contender Series, he fought Thomas Paul. He came out throwing hammers from the word go. Both guys stayed in the pocket. It was Paul who did the pressuring, though. Both guys landed big shots, but Paul was pressuring, and E threw a left hook that just missed Paul, but then he followed with a right hook that was right on the money. He dropped Paul, and then he finished him with ground and pound. So he's got that nice combination of power, speed, and volume on the feet. He keeps distance well with his kicks. He's got a variety of kicking attacks, and his takedown defense with that Kimura trap actually isn't that bad. But we're going to see if it holds up against a fighter the quality of Loik here. He looks like a good prospect, but I need to see what he's going to do against a solid UFC level wrestler. And that guy is going to be Radzhabov here. He's a 10-year veteran of the sport. He's got a 16-4-1 record with over 210 minutes in the pro cage. He's taken the Ribovics fight on less than 1 week's notice, and he'll have 5 days to do this weight cut down to 155. His last fight, which took place in Eagle FC, took place at 165 pounds. Loik made it to the PFL lightweight final in 2021 and in 2019. He lost both of those final performances, though. He's got a 75% finish rate as a pro, 7 knockouts, 5 submissions, and he's never been finished in 21 pro fights. He's a well-rounded fighter. He is in and out on the feet. He stays on his toes. He shows off some power with his overhand right, especially in the Aliyev fight when he got to finish 27 seconds in. He showed a wrestling-heavy game plan versus Zane in Eagle FC and wound up getting a sub finish by guillotine in the first round. Loik has seen plenty of wrestling-heavy game plans from his opponents in PFL, fighting guys like Mamedov and Chris Wade, and 2 of his decision losses were in 5-round fights in the PFL championships, and those were against Hausch Manfio and Natan Schulte. In the Mamedov fight, we saw Mamedov just try to blanket Loik for 2 rounds, and he was successful getting takedowns and kind of holding Loik down. But in the last minute of both of the rounds, Loik was landing big shots after he got back up. And as a matter of fact, he kind of reversed Mamedov in that second round late in the fight and landed massive shots and ground and pound and almost choked him out. So we've seen Radzhabov go out there and lose minutes to good wrestlers, but I don't think we're going to have to worry about that with Ribovics here. Loik won 30-second stretches of those rounds, but still was able to win the fight due to Mamedov doing 0 damage. So, yeah, this is an interesting way to start off the card. We got to find out a lot more about both of these guys. But in my opinion, Loik Radzhabov has fought so much better a level of competition thus far. He's been in 5-round fights. He knows what it's like to be under the bright lights and fighting really top level, UFC level type of competition in PFL, getting to the finals twice there. So I think that we can see Loik have success on the feet, but I especially think that we might be able to see him do what he was able to do versus Zane in Eagle FC. And that's really just get some takedowns and slow the fight down and make sure that you take Ribovics out of where he's most dangerous, which is on the feet where he's using his striking. So I'm going to pick Loik Radzhabov to win this fight. I'm going to pick him to win it by decision. I think this fight, even though Ribovics is 11-0 in his career and he's got a 100% finish rate as a pro, I think Ribovics might be, we don't know how durable he is because he's never been finished. And Radzhabov has never been finished as a pro as well. Both of these guys have got some serious power, but we just don't know what the durability of Ribovics is. I think we got to find out some more information there. So in terms of the time props, I'm really not leaning either way. But if you force me to make one bet because of the fact that Ribovics has never been finished and Radzhabov has never been finished, maybe the overs are the best way to play this fight. But the pick that I'm going to make here, everybody, is going to be Loik Radzhabov to win this fight by decision. So let me get to my Tapology page and I will pick these fights as we go along so that you guys know what I'm doing on all. Okay, wait, why isn't that? Make picks, edit picks. How about edit picks? Oh, God. All right, there we go. And we will go Loik Radzhabov to win by decision. All right. The next fight is going to be Damon Blackshear, is a big underdog at plus 350, and he's going to be going up against the younger brother of Javid, the Snow Leopard Basharat, and this is Farid Basharat, who's a minus 450 favorite right now, and we've got the fight doesn't go to decision, actually a plus money here at plus 115. So, let me get my notes up on the screen. Let me get the stats up on the screen for everybody to look at here. So we can see that Basharat is making his UFC debut, and we've only got a 1-fight sample size for Damon Blackshear. All right, let's get that back up. Okay. So Damon Blackshear, let's talk about him first. He's a big, experienced, well-rounded fighter with a functional MMA game. He switches stances on the feet. He's got a variety of offensive options, but he does his best work in the grappling exchanges, as he's got good wrestling, really efficient back takes, and a solid submission game. 8 of his 12 pro wins are by submission. Damon's got a 12-4-1 professional record. He's got over 220 minutes in the pro cage, and he's got a 7-year pro MMA career. In addition to that, Damon has a 7-1 record as an amateur, where he fought Tony Gravely twice. Damon has fought reputable regional scene organizations like Bellator, CES, and CFFC, and he had just won the CFFC Bantamweight Championship against DeAndre Anderson, and then he defended it against John Smith before making his UFC debut on short notice versus Yusuf Zalal, earning a draw. In that UFC debut against Zalal, we definitely saw Blackshear get outlanded and outvolumed at distance, but we did see him get one takedown, and we did see him get about 25% control time while yielding about 32% control time to Yusuf Zalal. However, we did see Damon make the most of that control time, as he got to Zalal's back at the end of the first round for the last minute and got a standing body triangle in on his back and was hunting for that rear naked choke. So we do know that Damon could be very, very dangerous in the grappling exchanges. And when you watch this dude fight, he's fighting solid regional scene competition in solid regional scene organizations. And you know, he's never been finished in 17 professional fights. He's 12-4-1. He's been to decision 8 times, and he's got a 3-4-1 record in decision. So, yeah, Damon's a good, solid, well-rounded fighter here, but he's a big underdog to Farid Basharat. And Farid's a very good young prospect. He's the younger brother of Javid, originally from Afghanistan, and then he lived in the UK. Farid is only 25 years old. He's got an undefeated pro record of 9-0 with 6 wins coming inside the distance. Watch some tape on this guy. In the Kulkala fight, Farid had an excellent showing. Farid got takedowns when he wanted them, and he wound up on top every time Jan went for a takedown. On the feet, Farid pressured and was by far the busier and more effective striker. In the second round, Farid again did the better work on the feet, constantly switching stances and feinting before landing the heavier strikes. Then he got a beautiful reactive double leg takedown and got to Jan's back shortly thereafter, and he finished the round there, all the while working to get the rear naked choke and landing ground and pound. In the third round, Farid pieced Jan up on the feet, made him panic wrestle, and when he did, Farid easily reversed him. Once again, he easily got to Jan's back, and then he finished with the rear naked choke about 1:48 into the round there. Easy, dominant win there for Farid against an experienced opponent there in Jan Kulkala. And then we got in the Guzman fight, Farid was doing the much better work on the feet until he got caught with a counter overhand right that got him moving backwards. Guzman swarmed looking to finish Farid, but he jumped Gilly, and Farid easily defended and wound up on top. From there, Farid passed the half, and he landed a nice ground and pound until the end of the round. In both the first and second rounds, Farid did such a nice job of maintaining range and staying busy with his leg and body kicks that he utilized from both stances that he really did the better work there. He did have that one little scare where he kind of got knocked off balance and backwards, but he definitely recovered right away and wound up getting on top of the guy. So, you know, he drops Guzman later on in that fight with a nasty rear leg head kick with 25 seconds left, pounced on him, mounted him, landed ground and pound, and when Guzman turtles up, Farid got the rear naked choke very quickly, about 6 seconds left in the round, and it looked like he only had one hook in. So it was a really good opportunistic finish there by Farid. And then on DWCS, Farid faced Alan Bagoso. By the time Farid got to DWCS, Farid was training at Extreme Couture. When the war started in Afghanistan, Farid's family fled the country and went to Pakistan, where they lived in a refugee camp for a couple of years. Then they moved to the UK. This kid is well-rounded. He's got excellent fight IQ. He's following in the footsteps of his older brother, Javid, and both of these guys are young, well-rounded prospects who are dangerous wherever the fight goes. Farid put together another dominant performance, outstriking Bagoso at distance 52-12 and getting 3 to 4 takedowns, getting 3 out of 4 takedowns and accruing 9 minutes of control time. Complete whitewash in that fight. So, this is a step up for Farid. Absolutely. He's getting a 17 fight veteran who's been, a champion in CFFC and, fought in CES, fought in Bellator. And he's already made his UFC debut and wound up getting a draw against an experienced, young, talented opponent in Yusuf Zalal, who was making his debut at 135 pounds. So, but Basharat's much cleaner on the feet. He switches stances. He's very technical, and he's very difficult to win minutes against on the feet there. So, I do think Farid Basharat is going to win this fight. I think he wins it by decision. But Damon Blackshear at plus 350 on the money line, this guy's not bad. And this is a huge step up in competition. And when you look at the names on Farid Basharat's resume, they're not good names. Nikolai Mezdrea, Marco Zanetti, Jan Kulmala, Raul Guzman, Alan Bagoso. So, these are not the kind of names that we've been seeing, Blackshear in 5-round fights in CFFC against, better regional scene competition, CFFC level regional scene competition. So I think it's going to be an interesting fight. And I think that Damon Blackshear is going to find periods of success here. He might be able to get a takedown. He might be able to get to Farid's back. He might be able to land a big shot on the feet. But Farid is the better prospect here. He's cleaner. He's more technical. And I think he's more well-rounded. I think there's more paths to him winning minutes in this fight. So the pick is going to be Farid Basharat to win this fight by decision. And there's ferocious Farid, and we're going to call it a decision win. All right, next fight, everybody, is going to be Jessica Penne going up against Tabatha, the baby shark, Ricci. We've got Jessica Penne checking in at plus 250 right now. Tabatha Ricci minus 300 is the favorite, and the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 230. So let's start talking about Jessica Penne here. Jessica's a 40-year-old fighter, and she's been a pro for over 16 years now. She's got a 14-6 pro record with a 71% finish rate. 10 finishes, 8 by sub, 2 by knockout. Just has finished 1 of her 3 UFC wins inside the distance. It was a first-round submission win over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Jessica is tall and long for the weight class at 5'5" with a 67-inch reach. Her UFC striking numbers, though, they're not good. She has a negative 2.9 distance strike per minute differential with 0 knockdowns in her career and a 28.43% distance accuracy. And she also has a 47% distance striking defense, which is pathetic as well. She definitely prefers to grapple, though, and she is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, with more than half of her pro wins coming by way of submission. Jess is functional with her BJJ because she definitely uses it to get to dominant position, especially tries to get to the back, and she was successful doing that a lot in the Lupi Godinez fight. She got to Lupi's back and won the first round as a result of Lupi going for a head and arm throw, where Jess seized the opportunity to get her back, and she spent the rest of the round there hunting for the rear naked choke. Jess took Lupi's back again and got in a standing body triangle in the second while they were in the clinch, but Lupi defended that one well, got some clinch control time of her own. Jess tries to use her striking sometimes to maintain the distance and score, but most often she kind of punches her way into the clinch, which is where she sets up her grappling entries. I think Jess won the first 2 rounds against Lupi Godinez by having the more effective control time, even though Godinez won the striking exchanges when it was at distance. Most of the third round took place in the clinch, with Jess trying for flying arm bars and triangles and trying to get to Lupi's back, but she was unsuccessful. Jess won a split decision in that fight. In the Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, on the feet, Karolina was moving laterally. She was landing low leg kicks. Jess threw a teep to the body, and Karolina caught the kick and dumped Jess right on her ass. Now, Karolina landed a couple of leg kicks while standing over Jessica, while Jess was on her back, beckoning her into her guard, saying, please, Carolina, come into my guard. Do me a favor. And what does Carolina do? She goes into her guard. She obliged her, giving Jess exactly what she wanted. Once in Jess's half guard, she stood back up from deep half, did Jessica Penne. So she got to deep half, stood back up, and then wound up getting a takedown of her own from a body lock. And then Jess was in Carolina's guard. Then Carolina went for a leg lock. Jess defended that, spun around, got to Carolina's back, and immediately went for the arm bar. Got her in that spider web position, and it was just patient working for her from there. Carolina defended well for a while, and it went to a few different positions, but just never gave up on the arm bar, and she finished it with about a minute left in the round. In the Cody fight, just wasn't able to get her grappling game going, and she was 0 for 8 on her takedown attempts. She got 0 seconds of control time, and she was outlanded 115 to 55 at distance, and just couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat, landing 55 out of 234 distance striking attempts in that fight, which was 23.5%. Now, Tabatha Ricci, she is a top-notch grappler. She has judo and Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belts. Ricci's 7-1 in her pro career, with her only loss coming up a weight class on short notice versus Manon the Beast Fierro. In the UFC, Tabatha has done her best work in the grappling exchanges. Obviously, she got her ass shaved by Fierro, but in the Oliveira and the Viviane fights, she accrued 969 seconds of control time while only allowing 10 seconds of control time against, which was a 53.8% control time percentage on 10 of 22 takedowns in those two fights. But the problem with Tabatha's MMA game is she's getting mollywopped on the feet. A negative 3.08 distance strike per minute differential, and her accuracy, just like Jessica Penne's. I mean, like Tabatha Ricci couldn't hit water if she fell out of a boat either. She's got a 27% distance striking accuracy. The only area where Tabatha's numbers are better in the striking than Jessica's is the defense, because Jessica's got 47% distance striking defense, but for Tabatha Ricci, it's 62%, and that's including a fight against Manon Fierro. So this is an interesting fight, you know. Tabatha Ricci is a minus 300 favorite. So, I mean, immediately there, that makes her virtually unbettable. I never lay minus 300 on a women's fight. But then this is a grappler versus grappler matchup. Tabatha Ricci's striking is terrible, just like Jessica Penne's is. So, you know, this is going to be about who gets the takedowns, about who's the better grappler. And Jessica Penne has been a grappler for her entire career. She's going to get the fight that she wants. And she's going to get the fight that she wants while being plus 250 on the money line. Now, Tabatha's 12 years younger. You know, she's probably going to be more likely to get throws in the clinch because of that judo black belt that she has. But she's got to be careful with that, because if that's how she's going to go for her takedowns, that was exactly how Jessica Penne got to Lupi Godinez's back, was when Lupi was going for throws in the clinch, you know, judo throws. So it's an interesting stylistic matchup. Tabatha being the younger fighter, probably being the better conditioned fighter, just being at a different place in her career, probably does win this fight, but there's no way I would tell anybody to put her in a parlay to lay minus 300, a 75% implied probability, when Tabatha's path to victory is Jessica Penne's path to victory, and that's grappling. So we're going to find out which one of these ladies is the better grappler, but Jessica Penne's 4 inches taller. She's got a 6-inch reach advantage here. So, you know, there are some areas where Jessica could certainly give Tabatha Ricci problems. And, you know, as interesting as I think the Damon Blackshear money line is at plus 350, plus 375, I think Jessica Penne has an even more realistic chance to beat Tabatha Ricci than Blackshear has a chance to beat Basharat. And I think it's a very, very fat plus money number at plus 250. So I could see Jessica Penne winning a greasy split decision here. But I do see this fight going to decision. It's juiced to the tits, something like minus 260. But the pick is going to be Tabatha Ricci by decision. But the bet certainly if money keeps coming in on Ricci here and she gets up to minus 350 or something like that, and I can get Penne close to plus 300, I'm probably going to be taking a crack for one full unit on the Jessica Penne money line. But the official prediction is still going to be Tabatha Ricci to win this by decision. But I think that this line is so far off, and I think Jessica Penne is going to get the type of fight that she wants. And I think this is going to look a lot like Godinez versus Jessica Penne, versus Penne, because I think that Godinez and Ricci offer a similar style. It's just that Godinez has much better striking than Ricci does, and Ricci's the better submission grappler and judo player. But yeah, the pick's going to be Tabatha Ricci to win by decision here. All right, next fight is going to be the pride of South Africa, one of the two fighting prides of South Africa on this card. Team CIT in Pretoria, South Africa, stand up. Cameron Saaiman at minus 300 is going to be squaring off against Leomana Martinez at plus 250. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 145. So let me get these stats up on the screen. All right, and let's talk about Leomana Martinez first. Now, Mana's 10-3. He's a bantamweight who has good size and length for the division at 5'10" with a 70-inch reach. 8 of Leomana's 10 pro wins are by knockout, and this kid definitely has heavy hands. Prior to being in the UFC, all 8 of Mana's wins were by KO, and he KO'd notable names on the regional scene like Ricky Tercios and Jose Johnson. All 3 of Martinez's UFC fights have went the distance, though, and he's got 2 wins by split decision over Guido Canetti and Brandon Davis, and then he lost a unanimous decision to Ronnie Lawrence, where he was taken down 6 times, knocked down 3 times, and controlled for over 8 minutes. Mana is very low volume on the feet. He waits to land the big shot, so as a result of that, he's a prolific minute loser. He's got very dangerous power when he does land, though. Martinez did drop Lawrence with a spinning back fist, and then he had a straight right immediately after that spinning back fist that knocked Ronnie down again. But Ronnie got back up. But yeah, immediately after Ronnie got back up, he got knocked down again. Martinez also had 2 knockdowns versus Brandon Davis in the second round of their fight. But outside of that, he didn't do much, as evidenced by the split decision in that fight. Mana also won a close split decision against the 40-year-old Guido Canetti shortly after the death of Mana's coach, Saul Solis. So Mana will probably want to keep this fight on the feet where he can land the big shot. And he hasn't been successful yet winning minutes with his grappling at the UFC level, as he's getting out-controlled 22.5% to 4.4% in control time positions. And he's only winning those control time positions thus far in the UFC at a 16.5% clip with 30% takedown defense. Mana has definitely fought the better brand of competition, though, in comparison to Cameron Saaiman. Now, Cameron Saaiman is a 22-year-old prospect. He trains with Dricus du Plessis at Team CIT in Pretoria, South Africa, and he's got an undefeated 7-0 record with 5 knockouts, 1 submission, and 1 decision. Cam's got nice power on the feet, and the kid he's got a chin to match that power. He defends submissions well, and when he gets on top, he does a great job of staying there and landing really good ground and pound. In Cam's UFC debut, he attempted 0 takedowns, and Kozlo attempted 9 takedowns, and he got 5 of those 9 takedowns against Cameron Saaiman. But despite that fact, Steven initiated all the grappling exchanges. Cam still out-controlled him 46% to 33%, and he reversed position 6 times in that fight. Cam really, though, does his best work on the feet because he's got excellent conditioning. He's got great pace, and he's got great output. He's constantly throwing in combination, and he's got serious power with 5 wins coming by way of knockout. We saw that power and conditioning on full display in both the Kozlo and the Josh Wong Kim fights. Cam outstruck Kim 54 to 37 at distance, landing 28 significant leg strikes, and he outstruck Kozlo 23 to 8 at distance, and he knocked both of those guys out. Cam did give up takedowns and control time to both Kozlov and Kim, but he always defended submissions well and either reversed position or got back to his feet, which we also saw from Cam on the regional scene. The kid is unusually poised and well-rounded for his age. He's only 22 years old. He's getting better, and he looks to have a very high ceiling in the flyweight division. So the way I see this fight taking place is, that Mana Martinez has attempted 7 takedowns in 3 fights. He's gotten 3 of them, but, he's getting less than 5% control time. It's really not his game to go out there and win minutes with the wrestling, and I don't expect him to try to do that. So I do expect this fight to take place on the feet. And you can see what I'm talking about here, right? Mana Martinez is attempting 11.14 significant strike attempts per minute at distance, while Cameron's attempting 16.29. Cameron's opponents are only attempting 7, while Mana's are attempting almost 10. So Cameron's got a 62% striking defense. He's a little bit less accurate, and it's Mana Martinez with 4 knockdowns in only 3 fights. So he's got that power. But, I honestly think that Cameron Saaiman's power is comparable because of the fact that, he can knock you out with the volume and with the attrition that he brings, with the pace, the pressure, everything that he does. He's so much more active while on the feet than Mana Martinez is. So I see Mana Martinez having a puncher's chance here because the guy's got a ton of power, but he's far too low volume. He doesn't really do anything, and he waits to land that big shot. And I've seen Cameron get landed on big time a couple of times on the regional scene. And every time he eats it like a flapjack. This kid's got a chin. He's got ice water running through his veins. He's very, very poised for a 22-year-old man. And it looks like the moments aren't too big for him in the cage. He's found himself in some bad spots. He's found himself having a little bit of adversity, and he comes back from it. But I also think that in the Wang Kim and the Kozlov fights, he saw guys that were 10 times more active and dangerous and just doing things than what Mana Martinez is. I am not high on Mana Martinez at all. When I saw this line at Saaiman minus 230, Mana plus 200, my first thought was, wow, Mana's taller than this guy. He's longer than this guy. He's more experienced than this guy. He's fought the better brand of competition than Cameron Saaiman. And he's got that crazy power where he could lose minutes, and just land one big shot and wind up winning the fight. But God, when I watched the tape on Mana Martinez, he's so bad. He's so bad. He does nothing. He can win moments with that power. But outside of that, he just doesn't do anything. This guy is barely winning minutes against Brandon Davis and Guido Canetti. And he's getting mollywopped on the feet by Ronnie Lawrence, absolutely outboxed, knocked down 3 times, taken down 6 times, and held down for like 9 minutes out of the 15 minutes of the fight. So many holes in this game, such bad output, patient to a fault, and really just a puncher's chance. So I am going with Cameron Saaiman. I think he's going to win this one via attritional knockout in the 3rd round to make it the 3rd straight 3rd round knockout up here at the UFC level for Cameron Saaiman. So that is going to be the pick. It is going to be Cameron Saaiman to beat Mana Martinez by 3rd round knockouts. The next fight, everybody, is going to be Ian Machado Garry. And that's weird because you don't hear of a lot of Irishmen named Machado. But Ian Machado Garry, a giant favorite at minus 700 versus Song the Assassin Kenan, the plus 500 underdog. Fight doesn't go to decision at minus 250 here. Let's see. Let's bring up the notes and let's bring up the stats. And we got Garry Kenan right here. So let's first talk about Ian Garry. Ian's a young, hyped prospect, only 25 years old. He's got great size, length, and a well-rounded MMA game. He stands 6'3", with a 74-inch reach. So he's absolutely huge for the welterweight division, and he's training at a great camp in Killcliff FC. He's got a spotless 10-0 pro record, 6 wins coming inside the distance, 5 knockouts, 1 submission, which means he's also 4-0 in decisions. So he's not only knocking people out, he's got a submission, but he's also learning how to win minutes and win fights that way. Garry uses his size very well in the cage. He moves well laterally, and he does a great job of being hard to find and darting in and out of range. He throws long kicks with power at range and step-in knees when his opponents try to rush in to close that range. He really is good defensively with his feet and lateral movement, but he kind of keeps his head on the center line, and he's got a bit of the tall man's defense. But his punches, they come straight down the pipe, and they're thrown with power. He finds the range with his jab, and then he throws the cross right behind it, and if it lands, it stings big time. Both knockdowns Garry has in the UFC, he got with his right hand. The KO stoppage versus Williams was Garry using his feet and tall man defense to just step out of range with his right foot, plant, and then throw right down the pipe. And he landed right on Williams' chin as he overextended. Ian has shown solid takedown defense in the UFC and on the regional scene, but that won't matter against Song Kenan, as Song Kenan has never even attempted a takedown in the UFC yet. Now, Song Kenan is a pure kickboxer with great power that comes from his right hand. He trusts his power, and as a result of that, he can be low volume and wait to counter his opponents. Song doesn't attempt takedowns, and he's only showed 50% takedown defense on 12 attempts against. However, he's only been controlled for 16% of his UFC cage time thus far, so he's been successful keeping fights on the feet, and his get-up game has shown to be solid thus far. 3 of Song's 4 UFC wins are by knockout, and all 3 came as a result of that explosive right hand he has. So if Ian overextends on his attacks, he could find himself getting countered and slept here. But it's really hard to find a path for Song outside of him landing a big right hand. So Ian Garry is like 8 years younger in this spot. He's 3 inches taller. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage. He's the better minute winner at distance, and I see both guys having equal moment winning potential at range. Ian will be more likely to win minutes in the grappling exchanges here, but it's unlikely this fight hits the ground. Excuse me. Song is more experienced overall and in the UFC, and he's faced the superior UFC power numbers at the UFC level. So Song has faced the better competition overall at the UFC level, but Ian's wins are better, but not by much. Song has a puncher's chance here. Maybe a small shot on him to win by KO would be worth a shot, but the prediction is going to be Ian Garry to win this one by second-round knockout. He's better everywhere, and these guys are at 2 different career trajectories at this point. So Machado Garry by knockout in the second round is the official prediction. Yeah, sorry, I was muted because I was coughing. But Barkley is saying, is it true I would 50-44 MMA Joey over 5 rounds? And I don't know who MMA Joey is, but I will tell you this. I'm not 50-44ing anybody over 5 rounds. I've got about 30 seconds of conditioning and fighting conditioning in me. I'm like Bob Sapp in there. If I don't get the finish in the first 30 seconds, I roll over, you get your arm underneath my neck, and I tap quickly. The conditioning isn't there. So I don't think I could, 5 rounds with anybody in a fight might wind up with me in the morgue from a heart attack. So, that's not going to happen. But the next fight that we're going to talk about is going to be Julian, the Cuban Missile Crisis Marquez at plus 130, going up against Marc-Andre Barriault, the power bar at minus 150. The fight doesn't go to decision at minus 175 here. All right, very interesting fight. I'll get the stats up on the screen, and we will talk about these 2 gentlemen And this is going to be an action-packed, very fun fight. So there we go. All right. So let's start talking about Marquez. Marquez is a very exciting fighter to watch. He walks forward. He swings bombs. He's never afraid to engage in a war or trust his chin. His durability keeps him in fights he probably should lose. He's 32 years old, 6'2". He's got a 72-inch reach, and he's training out of Factory X, and he's got 12 pro fights in an almost 9-year MMA career that has been plagued by injuries. Julian has a 100% finish rate as a pro. He's got 6 knockouts and 3 submissions, and he's only been finished once in 3 losses. He's known for being able to take a beating and outlast his opponents, but he constantly puts himself in bad positions on the ground, and he tends to block punches with his face. He hasn't fought or beaten a good level of competition in the UFC, and his best years do appear to be behind him. But this dude is always dangerous because he's got heart, durability, power, and he's got a decent submission game. Marc-Andre Barriault on the other side is a veteran. He's a big-time veteran of the sport. He's about the same age as Julian, but he has 9 more pro fights and 125 more minutes in the pro cage. And he's got 4 more UFC fights and 50 more minutes in the UFC cage in comparison to Marquez. Marc relies on his cardio, output, pressure, pace, and durability. He isn't extraordinarily skilled anywhere, but he is down to scrap, and he moves forward, and he outvolumes his opponents. Marc rarely wrestles, but he's efficient in the grappling and clinch exchanges and will probably be more likely to win minutes in this fight in those exchanges. When Marc loses fights, it's because he gives up a ton of control time, takedowns, and ground and pound to his opponents. In Marc's UFC losses, and there have been 5 of them thus far, he's given up 16 takedowns in those 5 fights on 39 attempts, and he's been out-controlled in those losses 41% to 5%. But in his wins, Marc's out-controlling his opponents 19% to 10%, and he's only given up 4 takedowns on 13 attempts. So Barriault is definitely doing his best work when he isn't getting grapple fucked like he was against Sanchez, against Jotko, against Jun Yong Park, and against Anthony Hernandez. So for this fight, Marquez is going to be the better moment winner and finisher. He's probably more durable, even though both guys are very durable. And Julian does seem to have the better submission game. Marc has a 2-inch reach advantage. He's more experienced, and he's been more busy as a pro. He's the better striker. He's more likely to win minutes with his wrestling, as Marquez has never completed a takedown in the UFC. And Barriault has fought the better level of competition overall in the UFC, but neither one of these guys is what I would call impressive UFC wins yet. I don't like the fact that Marquez hasn't been healthy. He seems to be past his best years, and he hasn't shown the ability to be able to win minutes at this level against a guy who pressures, throws a ton of volume, and is durable. So I'm going to be picking Marc-Andre Barriault to win this fight by decision. The over 1.5, I think, is a pretty good play, but it opened at minus 145, and I think now it's juiced up to about minus 180. But I think you can trust both of these guys' durability, and I think that bet hits. In addition to that, I have a 1.3 unit bet on the Marc-Andre Barriault money line at minus 130 here. I just think that Barriault, with his pressure, with his output, that he's going to be able to keep Marquez backing up, and that he's going to be able to kind of wear on him and break him later on in the fight as he just puts on that pace, as he just keeps walking forward, and that Marc doesn't get tired. And I think that Julian kind of counts on fights being these back and forth wars where his opponents think that they're going to finish Julian, but Julian perseveres through it, and then he finds openings when his opponent is completely exhausted. But I don't think he's going to find those openings against a guy like Barriault, because Barriault doesn't get tired. And if Barriault doesn't get tired, I mean, I don't really see how Julian Marquez wins minutes here, because we just haven't seen him be able to win minutes at all. He's only winning 15% of the control time positions that he's been in. He's landed 0 takedowns while giving up 13. and he lands 4.54 strikes per minute at distance, but he absorbs 5.47, and he's been knocked down 3 times in 5 fights while only getting 1 knockdown of his own. So, yeah, there's a lot of reasons to believe that Barriault can win the minutes here, that he's not going to get tired. I mean, and Julian, if he can't finish a guy, he's never won in his career by decision because he's got a 100% finish rate, and he's 0-2 overall in fights that have went to decision. He even got out kickboxed for 15 minutes by Alessio Di Chirico. So I like Marc-Andre Barriault here quite a bit at -130. I know that line has moved away a little bit, but I got 1.3 units there. And I might be looking to parlay that over 1.5 or straight bet it. Might go in the greasy 4-legger this week, but that's a spot that I really like as well for this fight. All right. The next fight, Viviane Araujo is going to be squaring off against Amanda Ribas. This is a really good fight. Very closely lined fight, as Amanda Ribas is a slight favorite in -122, and Viviane Araujo +102 as the underdog, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting up at +195. So let's see here. Let me get my notes up on the screen, and let's first start talking about Viviane Araujo while I wet my whistle here. Okay, so Vivi, experienced, well-rounded fighter, solid kickboxing, nice power, and the ability to get fights to the ground with her open mat wrestling, and the ability to be able to win minutes on the ground with top control and her BJJ black belt. Vivi is 36 years old, though, but she's 1 inch taller, and she's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage over Amanda here. In Vivi's 15 pro fights, she's got an 11-4 record. 7 of those wins coming inside the distance, 4 submissions, 3 knockouts. Vivi's fights take place at striking range about 75% of the time in the UFC, and she gets outlanded and outvolumed at range, but she does throw with power. Vivi does tend to throw with everything she has, so she does tend to slow down later on in fights, especially after she grapples. Vivi's done an excellent job of mixing in the grappling, though, to win minutes thus far in the UFC. She's got 17 takedowns on 35 attempts, while only giving up 2 takedowns on 21 attempts. So she's got over 90% takedown defense, does Viviane Araujo. Vivi's winning 80% of the control time positions that she's been in. So I think with her superior distance striking and accurate open mat wrestling, she should be able to find multiple ways to win minutes in this spot. Now, Amanda Ribas is a lifelong martial artist, trained from a very young age by her father, Marcelo. Amanda is still only 29 years old, and this is her second fight at the flyweight division in the UFC. Amanda's 11-3 with 7 wins coming inside the distance, also 4 submissions and 3 knockouts, the exact same finish stats as Viviane Araujo. At striking range, Amanda's kind of got like this herky-jerky style. She moves her head a lot, she throws lots of volume, and she loves to pressure her opponents, and that helps her set up her entries into the clinch game. When once she's in the clinch, she can use her judo black belt to get fights to the ground, where she can then use her Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt to hunt for submissions. Amanda really does her best work in the grappling exchanges, but her distance striking numbers thus far in the UFC have been very good. Amanda has a positive 2.23 distance strikes per minute differential, and she's got 73.5% distance striking defense, which is excellent. Almost 60% of Amanda's UFC cage time has been spent at distance striking range. The other 40% is spent in control time positions, which Amanda has done a great job of winning. Amanda has 11 takedowns while only giving up 2 takedowns against, and she's winning almost 80% of the control time positions she's been in. She, like Vivi, has excellent takedown defense. Amanda's fought the better UFC strength of schedule according to my metric, but most of that metric was computed in the strawweight division and not up here at flyweight, where Vivi's been the whole time. So, in summary, Viviane Araujo is the natural flyweight. She's going to have the 1-inch height, the 2-inch reach advantage. She's got one more UFC fight in about 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. she's the better striker on the feet as she has more power and she's more technical, but her style does make her slow down late in fights because she throws with 100% power all the time. Vivi will have the better open mat wrestling here, though. And if Amanda is reckless with her pressure on the feet, I could see Vivi shooting reactive double legs and getting them and being able to win minutes on the ground. Amanda Ribas is 7 years younger, though, in this spot, so that's significant. She has the better clinch game as she has that judo black belt to lean on. And Amanda will have the superior conditioning and output in this matchup. And that could be huge down the stretch if the first two rounds are close. That being said, I do think Vivi has more opportunities to win minutes and moments on the feet. And if Vivi can stay out of the clinch, I think she'll be way more likely to win minutes with her wrestling and top control. And as a result of Vivi, in my opinion, having more paths to victory here, more paths to win minutes in this fight, I got to pick her to win this fight. I don't really picture Amanda winning minutes on the feet against Vivi. Vivi's going to be more powerful, more technical, and longer. And she's, when you saw the Ribas Chookagian fight and you saw the Araujo Chookagian fight, we just saw Amanda really getting pieced up at range. And Vivi lost the minutes at range with Catlin as well, but it was much closer than it was in the Ribas fight. Ribas had to get to the grappling exchanges in order to win minutes on that fight and to make it a close fight, which it was. And I think a lot of people gave that fight to Ribas. It was a very close fight, and you could have scored it either way. But the thing about Ribas in this matchup against Araujo is I don't think it's going to be as easy for her to get takedowns. And if she's not getting takedowns against Viviane Araujo, who's only yielded 2 in 8 UFC fights, showing 90% takedown defense and being controlled less than 5% of her UFC cage time, if that path isn't open for Amanda Ribas, I do believe that Vivi's going to make this look easy. And another reason why I like the Viviane Araujo money line here at plus 100 is when you look at the finish-only prop, it's minus 200 for Viviane Araujo. So if she's got 2/3 of the finishing equity in this fight, but you can also see that Vivi's probably more likely to win minutes in the striking exchanges here and even potentially in the grappling exchanges, I just don't think that the line makes sense. I think there's a ton of value on Vivi at plus 100 right here. And I made a 1-unit bet on her to win this fight. Or no, 1.5-unit bet. Actually, a heavy bet for me on women's MMA. 1.5 units to win 1.5 at plus 100. And the pick is going to be Vivi to win this fight by decision. And then the other pick here was Marc-Andre Barriault to win this fight by decision. Okay. Excellent. Next fight, a banger. Dricus du Plessis is going to be squaring off against Derek Brunson. Will it be blonde Brunson? We have to wait and find out. But Derek Brunson plus 195. Dricus du Plessis minus 230. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at minus 210 here. Let's get the stats up on the screen. And let's start talking about the ultra veteran in Derek Brunson. So Brunson is a veteran of the sport. 31 professional fights in an almost 13-year-long career. Derek has fought at the highest levels of the sport for the majority of his pro career. 24 of his 31 pro fights took place either in Strikeforce or the UFC. Derek's 39 years old now. He's got a 23-8 record, 14 wins coming inside the distance. Early in Derek's UFC career, he really relied on his power. He came out blasting like Yosemite Sam. He trusted his chin, stood in the pocket, threw bombs until one man fell. Derek actually went on a 5-fight winning streak early in his UFC career, winning 4 of those 5 fights in the winning streak in the first round by knockout. But then he lost 4 out of his next 6, with 5 of those 6 fights ending in the first round. The losses came against Robert Whittaker, Anderson Silva, Jacare Souza, and Israel Adesanya. So he was losing to the elite guys in the division. Now, after that run, Brunson changed the way that he fought. He decided to lean on his wrestling bases. He was a national champion, Division II NAIA wrestler, and he wanted to instead of just using his power on the feet and like being in this kill or be killed mentality where he was just going to, see who landed the first big shot. Now he was going to use this wrestling base as he was a national champion, and he wants to dominate these fights by getting takedowns and getting ground and pound and working for submissions. So over this 5-fight winning streak that he got after he lost 4 out of 6, Derek went 19 for 45 on his takedown attempts over that 5-fight stretch, and he racked up an impressive 42.35% control time for. And over his UFC career, Derek has got elite grappling numbers. He's gotten 31 takedowns, and he's only allowed 2. He shows 88.24% takedown defense, and he's winning a whopping 95% of the control time positions that he's been in. This shift in fight style really turned Derek's UFC career around. But now at the age of 39, he's probably going to be retiring soon. Recently, we saw Derek get pieced up on the feet versus Till, but he had no problem getting the fight to the ground and winning minutes versus a guy with some of the worst takedown defense in the division. When Derek gets his wrestling going, he wins. In Derek's last 3 losses from 2018 to present, he's only 3 of 20 on his takedown attempts. That's 15% accuracy. And he has 23.2% control time. The unanswered question in this fight is, what is Dricus du Plessis' takedown defense going to look like against one of the division's top wrestlers? If we can accurately answer that question, we'll have an excellent idea about how this fight's going to go. Derek hasn't looked good on the feet lately. Being a minute loser there, but he still does flash some power. He dropped Cannoneer at the end of the first round and was very close to finishing him. So Derek appears still to be dangerous everywhere, but he's really most dangerous when he gets to the ground. And guys, he doesn't just take people down and lay on them. He lands nasty ground and pound, and he is constantly hunting for submissions and back takes. He really does, once he gets people down, look to finish the fight there. So it's an interesting change that he's went about here, and I think it's prolonged his career and it's gotten him a lot of wins. Now, Dricus is on fire right now. He's won 14 out of his last 15 fights. He was champion of both EFC and KSW, and he's undefeated at 4-0 thus far in the UFC. Dricus is still only 29 years old. He's finished an incredible 17 of his 18 pro wins, 10 by submission, 7 by knockouts, but he's also been finished in both of his pro losses as well. Dricus has shown a well-rounded skill set thus far in the UFC. He's got a positive 1.87 distance strike differential, and he has 2 knockdowns in 4 fights, and he throws over 3 more distance strikes per minute spent at distance. So he's never been dropped in the UFC yet. On the feet, Dricus is explosive. He darts into range quickly and throws and counters with power. He throws a ton of low leg kicks early in the fight to upset his opponent's rhythm, and then he starts going to the body and then upstairs with bad intentions. Dricus also has mixed in the wrestling, as he's gotten 8 takedowns on 17 attempts while only allowing 1 takedown on 2 attempts against. He's getting 3.18 takedowns per 15 minutes, which is actually more than what Brunson gets, which is exactly 3 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's winning over 76% of the control time positions he's been in. Dricus has only faced 2 takedown attempts thus far in the UFC. So this is going to be the first time we really see his takedown defense tested in the UFC, and it's going to be against one of the divisions and really one of the UFC's top wrestlers. So this is a very interesting stylistic matchup. Both guys are well-rounded fighters, but clearly Brunson needs to wrestle successfully, and Dricus should be able to do better work on the feet. Derek is more experienced overall and in the UFC. He has the far better wrestling pedigree, and he still flashes legit power on the feet. Brunson has fought and beaten a much better level of competition, and his grappling game is probably better than Dricus's. Dricus is 10 years younger, though, and he's the far better UFC minute-winning striking statistics guy, as he's got a very good Dricus has got the better minute-winning statistics at range, as we see 6.36 distance strikes landed per minute and only 4.5 absorbed, while Derek's landing about 3.76 and absorbing about 3.63. And we see that Dricus is throwing a lot more volume than his opponents. And then, and Dricus is also a very good wrestler and active grappler in his own right. Over half of Dricus's career's wins are by submission. So even if Derek is able to wrestle successfully, Dricus should be able to successfully defend with his sub and sweep attempts. Does Derek Brunson have one more win in him, you guys? Does he? At the age of 39? I mean, he might. Plus 200 is an interesting price this week because I think both fighters are dangerous and have paths to victory here. That being said, I'm picking Dricus to get a late second-round knockout win. I do think that this fight finishes inside the distance. We can see here that Dricus has been finished in both of his pro losses, and Derek's been finished in 6 of 8 pro losses, and Derek's been finished in 5 of his 6 UFC losses. So, yeah, these guys lose a lot, and they're both really good finishers in their own right, too. We got like almost a 70% finish rate in the UFC for Brunson, and a 75% finish rate for Dricus du Plessis. And then in addition to that, I think that, either Brunson does get the takedowns and works his top control ground and pound and grappling game. And if he does do that, I think that there's a very good chance that he finishes Dricus. And I think that if he's unable to do that, I think that's a very good chance that Dricus finishes Derek. So I do like this fight finishing inside the distance. The official pick is going to be Dricus to get a late second round win by knockout. But I am taking a very long look at the Derek Brunson money line this week. And I'm also taking a very long look at the fight doesn't go to decision for this fight. But the official prediction is going to be Dricus du Plessis to win this fight by second round knockout. But God, I've cashed a lot of plus money tickets on Derek Brunson over this recent winning streak. And I might want to try to make it one more cash on plus money. Derek Brunson plus 200. Dricus has only faced 2 takedowns, so we really don't know what the takedown defense is going to look like at this level, and not just at this level, but against a guy in Brunson whose grappling numbers at the UFC level are very, very good. So fascinating stylistic matchup there. Potential fight of the night. High likelihood to finish inside the distance, and 2 great well-rounded fighters. Can't wait for that one. Now, the next fight that we're going to talk about is going to be Cody No Love Garbrandt squaring off against Trevin 5-Star Jones. We got Garbrandt as a minus 170 favorite. Trevin Jones on the comeback plus 145. The fight doesn't go to decision. Juiced to the tits at minus 260. So let's get to the notes here and talk about first Cody Garbrandt. Now, Cody is a wrestle boxer who has a rare combination of speed and KO power. He's 31 years old right now. He's got a 12-5 pro record. 10 of them are finishes. 10 of those 12 wins are finishes, all by KO. The former UFC bantamweight champion is Cody Garbrandt, and he trains at Team Alpha Male. Cody's a killer-be-killed fighter. 9 of his 12 UFC fights have finished inside the distance. Cody will occasionally mix in the wrestling, but he does prefer to standard box, where he uses his speed and power to win moments and get knockdowns. Cody's got a whopping 10 knockdowns in his 12 UFC fights, and he's got a 7-1 UFC record when he records a knockdown. And he's got an 0-4 UFC record when he doesn't record a knockdown. So to say he's reliant on his power is an understatement. Cody's low volume on the feet, which is why he tends to lose minutes there. But his power and patience do pay off a lot of the time. This matchup is one where I could see Cody actually winning minutes, though, on the feet, because Trevin is just as low volume as Cody. But the difference is that Cody is way more defensively responsible on the feet, and his distance striking defense is 63% compared to 46% for Trevin Jones. Cody's been KO'd in 4 of his 5 UFC losses, and he's been knocked down 7 times in 12 UFC fights, which is 1.62% of the distance strikings that he has absorbed. So Cody's the better wrestler for sure in this spot, and if he doesn't like how it's going on the feet against Trevin, I can see him winning minutes with that path like he did in the first 2 rounds of the Font fight. I think Cody can use his wrestling offense and defense to dictate where this fight takes place. And from there, he can rely on his higher level experience against better opponents to craft a winning game plan versus Jones, which would be to avoid the lead right hook of Jones and not let Jones operate from top position or win minutes in the clinch. Now, Trevin Jones is an 11-year veteran of the sport. He's got a 14-9 pro record. He's a no-gi grappling champion who fights southpaw, and he's got serious power in his lead right hook, and he is a very good MMA grappler when he gets to top position. Trevin is 2-3 thus far in the UFC, but he's lost most of his minutes in the cage. He's won moments in both the Valiev and the Bautista fights that turn the fights on a dime, but outside of those moments, he's had a difficult time finding success in the UFC octagon. Trevin spends about 66% of his UFC cage time at distance striking range, where he's getting outlanded by almost 3 distance strikes per minute and getting out-volumed by about 2.5 attempts per minute. Trev's got a terrible 34% striking accuracy and a really bad 45% distance striking defense. He's landed 2 knockdowns in 5 fights, and both of those knockdowns resulted in knockout wins, but he's also been dropped twice in those 5 fights, so he hasn't exactly been a picture of durability, as a lot of refs would have stopped the Valiev fight. Trevin has only been successful on 2 of his 18 takedown attempts thus far, but even though he's given up 4 takedowns, and Trevin is still winning 57% of the control time positions he's been in, so his grappling efficiency has been solid thus far. He does his best work when he's on top. Trevin has faced some really tough competition, so even though his numbers haven't been spectacular, he's been in there with really tough dudes, and he's well acquainted with what high-level UFC opponents feel like in the cage. So, in summary, Cody Garbrandt is 1 year younger. He's got more UFC-level experience, and he's faced and beaten the much better level of competition, as Cody was a former champ. Cody will be faster and probably be more powerful on the feet, and he does have the superior wrestling pedigree as well. He should be able to find multiple paths to win minutes and moments in this fight. Trevin, though, is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage. He's got 6 more pro fights and 140 more minutes in the pro cage. So Trevin has the overall experience advantage here. Trevin also has the moment-winning ability on the feet, as he's got the power in his lead right hook, and if he gets top position, he'll be able to do good work there. I do think that Cody is better everywhere in this spot, though. And outside of Trevin landing that lead right hook, I think Cody wins this fight any way he wants. But I'm going to say Cody Garbrandt to win by 3rd round knockout. Whew. I'm going to need a little bit of Paloma here. Wow. I'm coughing a little bit, you guys. So I apologize for that. But, yeah, I'm looking for a Cody Garbrandt 3rd round knockout. But I want to look real quickly at my prop template here for the Garbrandt-Jones fight and talk about a plus 200 fight goes to decision. That's 17% underpriced when we compare it to the benchmark for fight goes to decision at 135 pounds for 3-round fights, which is 50% of the time that happens. Now, only 25% of these guys combined UFC fights have went to decision, but both of these guys are moment winners. So I could see a knockout coming from either guy, but neither one of them are particularly high volume. And if they both stay safe, or if they get into the clinch a lot, I could see this fight going the full 15. And at plus 200, that's a pretty fat number, but it's not something I'm looking to pull the trigger on right now. But either way, yeah, Cody Garbrandt, 3rd round knockout is the pick. And then that brings us to the main card. 5 fights left to talk about. If you guys haven't smashed that like button yet, please do that. We've got 74 of you guys hanging out live. It's pay-per-view week. Let's finish strong. Let's knock out these last 5 fights. I'll give you guys my track bets for the week, and then we're going to finish with Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, which has been on an absolute hot streak over the last month. So let's keep it moving, you guys. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So we're going to get the stats up on the screen, which we don't have a lot of stats of. But Bo Nickal, ladies and gentlemen, going up against Jamie Pickett. So Bo Nickal is an extremely hyped prospect training at American Top Team. He's a 3-time Division I national champion at Penn State University. He won the Dan Hodge Trophy as the nation's most outstanding collegiate wrestler in 2019. Bo only has 3 pro fights and 2 amateur fights as a mixed martial artist. But after only 1 pro fight, he was invited on Dana White's Contender Series to fight for a contract. Bo started training at the age of 5 and has been an elite wrestler from a very young age. He took second in state in New Mexico in high school, but he was in 8th grade. So he actually went downstate and placed second, wrestling kids that were 3 and 4 and 5 years older than him. But yeah, the kid is an amazing talent. Bo's entire pro career thus far as a pro mixed martial artist has spanned 2.5 minutes. And that's how long it took Bo to shave not 1, not 2, but 3 asses. He shaved John Nolan's ass in only 33 seconds, KOing him on the feet and showing solid striking. On Dana White Contender Series, he versus Zach Borrego, Bo was a minus 2,800 favorite, and he got a takedown 5 seconds in, snatched up a front choke. He used that to get to Zach's back, and he finished with the rear naked choke in 1 minute and 2 seconds. And he wasn't awarded a contract due to lack of experience, but he was invited to come back for the series finale. And then he faced Donovan Beard, who had a 7-1 pro record. And in this fight, Bo was a minus 3,500 favorite. Bo exploded in with a huge overhand left on the feet that dropped Beard. Bo immediately got to mount, landed ground and pound, then locked up the triangle from mount, rolled to his back, and finished the choke. Flawless thus far in his pro career. It's going to be interesting to see how Bo responds against Jamie Pickett in his UFC debut. Jamie Pickett, he's your run-of-the-mill, journeyman veteran of the sport. He's got a 13-8 pro record, and he's 2-4 in the UFC. He's been a pro for over 11 years, but he's now 34 years of age and being brought in to lose to the phenom Bo Nickal. Jamie has most of his pro wins by knockout. He's a big, strong middleweight with a great frame for the division at 6'2", with an 80-inch reach. He's low volume on the feet, though. He kind of saves his energy for the occasional blast combo, and he does like to win minutes in the clinch and slow fights down. Jamie gets outlanded and outvolumed at range, but not by much. He's never landed a knockdown, but he's been dropped 4 times by his opponents. In the grappling exchanges, Jamie has 5 takedowns in 6 fights. He's averaging 1.23 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's shown 80% takedown defense, but he's still lost 70% of the control time positions that he's been in. So he just hasn't been particularly efficient in the grappling either. Jamie's got a limited skill set at this level, and I have no clue how he manages to win this fight other than weathering the early storm and finishing a gassed Bo Nickal who had an adrenaline dump. But other than that, this is an unbettable fight with where the line is. Bo Nickal is better everywhere except for experience and level of competition. However, Nickal looks phenomenal already, and he's got more than one way to win this fight. I'm thinking it's going to be Bo Nickal by first-round submission, but I won't be betting on this fight. There's just no value in any of these lines, but it's going to be really fun to see the young man come in, make his UFC debut, shave an ass, get out of there quickly, and, get people to continue do what they're already doing, which is talking about this young man, because he's definitely got people talking. I think the last legitimate prospect that the UFC brought in that had about as much experience as Bo Nickal is, I believe, Cain Velasquez. When he made his UFC debut, only had 3 professional fights under his belt at that point, but they knew he was special. And they just brought him, they just opened the door to him. And I mean, I think Brock Lesnar might have been a very similar situation, and Bo Nickal now. So, this kid is clearly a very hyped prospect with a very high ceiling, and, he's going to look to open some eyes and shave the ass of Jamie Pickett on Saturday. Bo Nickal, first round submission. Let's go. All right. Now, let's get to the next fight, which is one of my favorite stylistic matchups on the card. Jalen Turner, the Tarantula, plus 181, going up against the gamer, Mateusz Gamrot, minus 211. And we got the fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 200 right now. And there are the stats for you guys. We got the notes over here, and let's first start talking about Mateusz Gamrot. After I get a sip of this beverage, and after you guys hit the thumbs up button. All right. Mateusz is a very experienced, well-rounded, and dangerous fighter. He's got a 21-2 professional record in an 11-year career. He's got over 300 minutes in the pro cage. He was the former KSW featherweight and lightweight champion, and he has an extensive background in wrestling and grappling. In 2014, Mateusz won the ADCC Submission Wrestling European Championships. Mateusz is 4-2 so far in the UFC, with his only setbacks coming by split decision to Guram Kutateladze and by unanimous decision to Beneil Dariush. Mateusz is very committed to his wrestling. He's attempted a takedown in every UFC fight thus far, and he's totaled 70 takedown attempts in only 6 fights and 70 minutes in the UFC cage. So 70 takedown attempts in only 70 minutes in the UFC cage. So this dude's commitment to trying to wrestle and get the fight to the ground is unmatched. So that's coming out to 4.66 takedowns for 15 minutes, paired with a 90% takedown defense. And Mateusz is out-controlling his opponents 18.7% to 3.2%, which means he's winning over 85% of the control time positions that he's been in. Mateusz is also a good boxer with some power on the feet. He's a little low volume, though, as he only attempts 7.5 distance strikes per minute, while his opponents attempt over 10.5. And Mateusz has landed 1 knockdown in 6 fights, but he's absorbed 3. So he has been a bit chinny. In this matchup, as good as Mateusz striking has looked, he would be smart to avoid the stand-up at all costs, where he's at a 5-inch height and a 7-inch reach disadvantage, and continue along the path of attempting 1 takedown per minute, racking up takedowns, control time, landing ground and pound is definitely his best path in this fight. Because Jalen Turner is hotter than sriracha sauce right now, you guys. He's on a 5-fight winning streak. All 5 of those wins coming by first or second round finish. He's a huge lightweight at 6'3". He's got a 77-inch reach, and he's dangerous wherever the fight goes, as evidenced by his 100% finish rate, 8 knockouts, 5 submissions in his 13 wins. On the feet, Jalen uses his length well. He throws straight punches and kicks to maintain range. He keeps a great pace on the feet, throwing 15.53 distance strike attempts per minute, while his opponents are only throwing 9.3. So he's throwing 6 more attempts per minute at distance than his opponents are. So a ton of volume. And he's also got a ton of power, as Jalen's got 4 knockdowns in 8 UFC fights, and he's only absorbed 1 knockdown in those 8 fights. And that was up a weight class on short notice versus Vicente Luque. So Jalen's efficiency in the grappling exchanges has been excellent, as Jalen has only attempted 4 takedowns, while his opponents have attempted 27 takedowns. Yet Jalen is winning 58% of the control time positions in his fights, and he's shown 78% takedown defense. That takedown defense is absolutely going to be tested by Mateusz if he can find ways to safely close the distance versus Jalen. In Jalen's only loss at lightweight, we did see Matt Frivola get 4 takedowns on 13 attempts. He also got 2 reverses and attempted 2 submissions, while out-controlling Jalen 307 seconds to 66 seconds. So he got about 5 minutes of control time, while Jalen got about 1 minute of control time. And we saw Malarkey get a takedown against Turner in the first and rack up about 90 seconds of control time and finish the round on top. So that's probably the path that Mateusz Gamrot's going to go down. This is a fascinating stylistic matchup. Can Jalen stop the takedowns of Mateusz? If not, can he get back up? You know, and these are the most important questions in this fight. Jalen is 4 years younger. He's 5 inches taller, and he's got a 7-inch reach advantage. He's got 100% finish rate, and he's dangerous wherever the fight goes. On the feet, he's way more powerful than Mateus. He's way more explosive than Mateus, and it's really difficult to close the distance against him. But if you can, he only has a 46% striking defense as Jalen Turner, so he's got to work on being a little bit harder to hit at distance. But Jalen's also got this tricky submission game due to his unusual length. Mateus is the more experienced fighter here. He's never been finished in his career, and he's the better wrestler who has fought the better brand of UFC competition overall. Mateus is going to have to fight a perfect fight, though, to get the job done here, because one mistake against somebody as explosive and powerful as Jalen, and it's curtains for you. The wrestling-heavy game plan path is there for Mateus, and you know he's going to use it. But Mateus has only accrued 18.7% control time on the aggregate thus far. And even with his 70 takedown attempts in 70 minutes, that's not nearly enough time to render Jalen's striking ineffective. Because if he gets 20% control time, a little bit more than 18.7, which is his aggregate, that leaves, if he doesn't get a finish in those 3 minutes, 12 minutes on the feet, where Jalen Turner is just, I mean, the power, the length. I mean, you shoot it on takedowns on this guy, you might eat a step-in knee. He can kick you, he can knee you, he can elbow you. Those straight punches down the pipe have got serious power. I mean, he hurt Brad Riddell with the first shot that he threw and then got that guillotine. I mean, Jalen Turner is so much more explosive and dangerous than Mateusz Gamrot. And I understand that, you know, what the path is here for Gamrot, but my opinion is that he's got to fight a perfect fight. And if he doesn't get the submission while this thing is on the ground, the first, second, and third rounds are going to start on the feet. And those are going to be 3 opportunities for Jalen Turner to land one big shot that changes the trajectory of this fight. So I can't lay the kind of juice on Gamrot knowing that he's going to have to do something that he really hasn't done before, which is control his opponent for maybe 60 to 80% of this fight in order for this fight to take place on the feet a short enough time that I don't necessarily have to worry about Jalen Turner getting the knockout here. So I've got to pick the upset. I'm picking Jalen the Tarantula Turner here at plus 190. This line is getting very bonkers. Mateus really is going to have to be perfect, because if he's not, if he misses these takedowns, if he gets reversed, if he absorbs shots on the feet, he's going to have a very bad time. So Jalen Turner is the pick. Second round knockout. I'm predicting that this is the first time that Mateusz Gamrot is ever going to be finished in his entire career. And I think that Jalen Turner has what it takes to do it. I think that this kid is absolutely special, and I am really rooting for him to win this fight, and I'm going to have money on him to win this fight as well, as I've already bet. I already have a bet on this fight that I'll tell you guys about when we talk about my tracked bets. All right. Next fight, another absolute banger. Jeff Neal going up against the Nomad Shavkat Rakhmonov. Minus 500 on Rakhmonov, the favorite. Plus 375 on Jeff Neal. You guys that are watching right now in the comments, if you could do me a favor, please tell me. Answer 1 for yes and answer 2 for no. And the question is Jeff Neal a bum? I will wait your answers. If you think Jeff Neal's a bum, put 1. If you think Jeff Neal's not a bum, please put 2. And I want to see what you guys have to say here, because this line is calling Jeff Neal a bum. A bum. Plus 375 on a guy that just knocked out Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque, who's fought everybody in the welterweight division, one of the most durable guys in the history of the division. Jeff Neal's dropping him twice in the first round, dropping him twice in the third round, landing straight left hands, looking fast, looking powerful, absolutely destroying from pillar to post a fighter. The quality of this guy, I mean, what is Jeff Neal a bum? And you guys are saying No, of course you're saying no. And I agree 100% with you. You guys, the verdict is that Jeff Neal is not a bum. This line is too wide. But let's talk about these two phenomenal fighters, these two phenomenal athletes. And we're going to start with Hands of Steel, Jeff Neal. He's a 10-year veteran of the sport with a 15-win, 4-loss record. 11 of those wins come inside the distance. Trains out of Fortis MMA under Saif Saud. He's a southpaw striker with excellent takedown defense and serious power in his left hand. Jeff has done a great job of keeping his fights at distance striking range thus far. 83% of his fights take place at distance striking range, and Jeff has shown an 88% takedown defense on 25 attempts against, and he's been controlled less than 4% of his UFC cage time. Jeff does get out-volumed and outlanded at distance striking range, but he makes up for that with his power. He has 7 UFC knockdowns while only absorbing 1. And his piston-like left hand can ruin anyone's night if it lands correctly. So if Jeff can keep this fight on the feet and occasionally win some minutes in the clinch, where we've seen Shavkat give up some minutes before, we've seen him give up minutes there before, perhaps this fight could look much closer than what the line is indicating. Shavkat Rakhmonov, the Nomad, 16-0, 100% finish rate, 8 knockouts, 8 submissions. He's got tremendous size for the division. He's huge, 6'1", 77-inch reach. Shavkat's got a fantastic ground game, a 10 out of 10 on his guillotine. He's got ferocious ground and pound, some of the best ground and pound I've ever seen. Derek Brunson, maybe even better than Derek Brunson's ground and pound. And his long striking attacks on the feet are always dangerous and can result in a knockdown, whether it's his spinning heel kicks, his step-in knees, his jump knees, his head kicks, or those straight 1-2s that he throws down the pipe. The kid is dangerous wherever the fight goes. He got Oliveira with a guillotine. He got Prazeres with an easy rear naked choke after landing savage ground and pound. He caught Harris with a spinning hook kick from range that led to a ground and pound finish. And then he caught Magny in his guillotine with 2 seconds left in the second round. The kid is a savage. He's only seen a third round once in his life. It was versus the Tajikistan product Faridun Odilov. And Shavkat is still only 28 years old, so the sky is the limit for the fighting pride of Kazakhstan, you guys. Look, Jeff Neal's a southpaw. He's got more professional and UFC-level fights. He's got 75 more minutes in the UFC cage. Jeff has massive power in his left hand, and if this fight stays on the feet, I can see Jeff having a lot of success. Shavkat's got a 2-inch height and reach advantage here. He's 4 years younger. He's got a 100% finish rate as a pro. Shavkat has the superior distance striking differential and power numbers thus far. The strength to schedule stats are very similar. I like this fight to go over 1.5 rounds. I think Neal is very dangerous, and he's fresh off his career best performance, KOing Vicente Luque. The pick is going to be Shavkat Rakhmonov to win his first ever fight by decision. But I do think that I will most likely be getting to a small money line bet on Jeff Neal because I think he's very live here, especially if this fight plays out on the feet. And Jeff Neal's got 9 UFC fights. He's got 100 minutes in the UFC cage. And in those 9 fights and 100 minutes in the cage, he's only been taken down 3 times, and he's been controlled for less than 4 minutes on those 3 takedowns. So if Jeff Neal isn't going for takedowns, if he's not initiating clinch exchanges where Rakhmonov can maybe get his arm around the neck and jump guillotine, this fight most likely with Jeff Neal's 88% takedown defense and Shavkat Rakhmonov's 100% takedown defense, this fight most likely does take place at range. And if this is just a distance striking match, maybe Shavkat's minus 150, minus 175. But I think for Shavkat to look minus 300, minus 400, minus 500, you have got to be seeing Shavkat not only get knockdowns and land big shots from range, but he's got to get on top and land some of that ground and pound, or he's got to jump for a guillotine, which is going to put him in a position to either mount his opponent or finish with the choke. But This is Jeff Neal. This is not a bum. This is not an old Neil Magny. This is not an older Carlston Harris. This is not a washed up Michel Prazeres. This is not a washed up Alex Oliveira. This is a guy who's only 32 years old in Jeff Neal. This is a guy who, when he lost to Neil Magny recently, was coming off like a life-threatening heart condition, which he's now fully recovered from. He said that he's regained his passion for the sport and that he was going to show how much he had regained that passion when he went out there to fight Vicente Luque. I believe Jeff Neal. I believe in his left hand. I believe him that he has regained his passion for this sport. And from what I've seen from Jeff Neal in the cage, he's not an easy out for anybody. And he doesn't look plus 375 versus anybody. He hasn't even looked plus 375 yet. Even against Magny in the loss, against Thompson in the loss, he didn't look plus 375. So I am looking for Jeff Neal to land some big shots here. And I'm really interested to see how Shavkat, reacts to that straight piston-like left of Jeff Neal. The pick, I'm going to cower it out and go with the Rachmanov here. I'm going to pick him to win by decision, which would be his first ever decision win in his career. But I probably will be getting to a Jeff Neal bet on the money line because this line is calling him a bum, and he is not a bum, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so the next fight, Alexa Grasso will be looking to try to be the new women's flyweight champion, and she's going to have to do it against the greatest of all time in the division, one Valentina Shevchenko. Valentina minus 700, Alexa Grasso plus 500. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up at minus 165. So when we look at the numbers here, Shevchenko has been fantastic, but she's very low volume. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out on the feet. Shevchenko kind of waits to counter. She only throws 8.52 distance strikes per minute spent at distance. But Grasso's throwing almost twice that much at 14.5. Grasso lands 5.96 but absorbs 4.67. Valentina lands 3.79 but only absorbs 2.55. So when this is on the feet, Grasso is going to have to find success with her boxing, and Valentina is going to be countering a lot. She's going to be throwing a lot of kicks, and she's going to be closing the distance because her wrestling attacks have been phenomenal thus far at the UFC level. 64 takedown attempts in 242 minutes in the cage. She's gotten 41 takedowns in 14 fights, averaging 2.53 takedowns per 15 minutes, getting those takedowns at a 64% clip, and defending takedowns at a 70% clip. Out-controlling her opponents at a 1.78 to 1 ratio, and she's winning 64% of the control time positions that she's in, and she spends about 43% of her time there. Grasso is only spending about 30% of her time in control time positions, but she's been very efficient. We see that Grasso has attempted 7 takedowns, but her opponents have attempted 48. So for every 1 takedown attempt Alexa Grasso attempts, her opponents are attempting about 7. So we would expect her to get out-controlled, but she's only getting out-controlled by like a 0.6 or, a 1.33 to 1 ratio here, which is 0.66 for Grasso. So she's actually been pretty efficient in that, like Valentina's landing 4 takedowns for every 1 that her opponents land, but she's not even controlling them at a better than 2 to 1 ratio. Alexa Grasso is getting out takedown at a 4 to 1 ratio, but her opponents aren't even out controlling her at a 2 to 1 ratio. So good efficiency for Grasso. Her takedown defense will be tested in this fight though, because I think while Grasso's on the feet here, she's going to be at an equal height and reach. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, but Grasso throws straight punches right down the pipe. She's very accurate, and she maintains distance well. It's just that Valentina will probably be a little bit better at distance because she makes better use of her kicks than Alexa Grasso does. So it's Valentina Shevchenko. She's the greatest of all time. But the last, the win against Santos was a very close fight. But Santos took a different path than what I think Alexa Grasso would take. I think that Grasso is very similar to Caitlin Chookagian in that she's does her best work at distance. She's not really knocking people out at this level, but she's winning minutes, winning striking exchanges, and making it difficult for her opponents to win a ton of minutes on the ground. So more than 70% of the fight takes place, at distance striking range, where she does her best work and has the best chance to win minutes. So I think if this fight stays standing, Grasso maybe gets the fight that she wants, and she can keep this thing close. But I think that while this fight is standing, Alexa Grasso isn't going to be able to truly commit to her striking because she's going to be worrying about Valentina Shevchenko taking her down, getting to dominant positions, landing ground and pound, doing what she does so well and where she's been so prone to dominate fights recently. And because Grasso doesn't pose the same kind of problems that Santos does, I do have to go with Valentina Shevchenko here. And I think that Valentina is probably going to win this fight late by knockout, because I think if she does continue to get takedowns, eventually she's going to get to a dominant position, maybe the crucifix, land a bunch of ground and pound, and have the referee step in. So I'm going to pick Valentina Shevchenko to win this fight by 5th round knockout. And it's going to be and still for the greatest of all time, Valentina Bullet Shevchenko. Class act, beautiful woman, beautiful mixed martial artist against the up-and-coming Alexa Grasso, who's definitely on fire right now and has really put together a nice winning streak to earn this title shot. But I think it might be a little too much too soon for Alexa, so I think Valentina gets the job done. Which brings us to the main event of the evening, the long-awaited return of the greatest of all time, the greatest to ever step into the octagon, the undefeated 27-0 Jon Bones Jones, 6'4", 84-inch reach, 35 years of age. Defended his title countless times, but we haven't seen him in the cage in over 3 years at this point. And he's going to be fighting a guy in Ciryl Gane, who since Jones's last fight, which was in 2020 versus Dominic Reyes, Ciryl Gane has fought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. 5 of those being 5-round fights. Wins over Jairzinho Rozenstruik, Alexander Volkov, Derek Lewis, a loss to Francis Ngannou in a very close fight, and then a knockout win over Tai Tuivasa. Look, we got one guy who's been active, who's been busy, who's the natural heavyweight, and he's fighting a guy who's coming off a 3-year layoff, and prior to that 3-year layoff, had very, very, very uninspiring performances against Dominic Reyes, Thiago Santos, and should have probably been disqualified against Anthony Smith. So there's a lot of missing information here. What does Jon Jones look like at heavyweight? Is he well rested? Is he the same fighter that he was prior to the layoff? How does he look at heavyweight? Do we see Jon Jones be able to utilize his wrestling game up against much larger guys? And especially against guys as athletic and as fleet of foot as Ciryl Gane in a big cage. It's going to be harder for Jon Jones to find this guy. Jon Jones, in his last fights, got 2 takedowns versus Reyes, 0 in the fight before that, and 3 in the fight before that. Now, in the 3 takedowns, he did get 779 seconds of control time. But against Reyes, 2 takedowns on 9 attempts, only 100 seconds of control time. And that was in a 15-minute fight. So about, 8.3% control time, for Jon Jones. 779 seconds of control time against Anthony Smith is very impressive, but Anthony Smith gives up control time like hotcakes. He's so easy to take down and hold down. I don't think Ciryl Gane's going to be that easy to take down and hold down. And my God, I mean, like that performance against Thiago Santos was god awful. Santos had 2 blown out knees, and I think he won that fight 59-43. Jones outstruck him, but I mean, he didn't even get a takedown. He barely got any control time. So this is not a place that I would be laying juice on Jon Jones. And it's kind of hard to break this fight down from a stylistic perspective because Jon could be completely different up here. And I really do believe if he's going to be fighting Ciryl Gane, he kind of needs to get takedowns because the striking was barely good enough to beat Dominic Reyes. It was barely good enough to beat Thiago Santos. And that was 3 years ago. 4 years ago in the case of the Santos fight, 2019. Jon Jones, in my stats here, look at this. Jon Jones is only listed as a 9-0 fighter with a no contest at the UFC level. You know why that is? Because my stats only go back to 2013. The majority of Jon Jones's pro career took place before the year 2013. This is a completely different fighter now, and we're missing a ton of information. But there are a couple of things that I'm looking at here. First of all, Ciryl Gane, more busy. He's the natural heavyweight, and he's actually probably the better striker here. And he's plus money, plus 138. And Jon Jones is off the 3-year layoff. We don't know how effective his wrestling is going to be at the heavyweight weight class. And, the layoff, just don't know what he's going to look like. Also, if we go to my prop template and we look at the 5-round analytics, and we go to heavyweight fights, which I have headlined here, there have been 63 5-round heavyweight fights since the year 2013. 50 of them have finished inside the distance. That is a 79% finish rate in 5-round heavyweight fights. We can get fight doesn't go to decision in this fight from minus 105, minus 110, which is like a 52% implied probability. And I know what the stylistic, people are saying stylistically, these guys aren't finishers, right? But it's a 5-round heavyweight fight. One guy's coming off an over 3-year layoff, and he's making his heavyweight debut. Ciryl Gane's a killer. And if this thing gets to the ground, Jon Jones got a very good submission game. He could potentially submit Ciryl Gane, and we could potentially find that Jones hasn't trained as hard as he said he did. And then he gets tired late in the fight, and Ciryl Gane gets him out of there. So I think just as a pure analytics play, even though Jon Jones has never been finished in his career, even though Ciryl Gane's never been finished in his career, both of these guys are finished. Both of these guys are dangerous. It's a 25-minute heavyweight fight, and 80% of these fights almost over a large 63-fight sample size finish inside the distance. That would be like a minus 400 line. If you priced it up according to the benchmark, we're only getting it minus 105, minus 110. So I think that's an interesting way to play this fight and just say, I hope somebody gets served over 25 minutes, but if not, it's an even money bet. It's not the end of the world. But the pick that I have to make here, even though I'm a believer Jon Jones is the greatest fighter that ever stepped into the octagon, there are just too many unanswered questions. And the questions that did get answered prior to the 3-year layoff were that Jon Jones just didn't look great. He had a very close fight that a lot of people thought he lost against Dominic Reyes, and Dominic Reyes hasn't won a fight since that happened and has looked really, really bad. So I just think it's ridiculous to make all these assumptions about Jon Jones and then you have to lay juice while you're making all those assumptions. Minus 158 means they're giving him more than a 60% implied probability to win this fight, and I can't get with that. I've got to pick Ciryl Gane to win this fight, and I think he'll probably win it by 5th round knockout. We did it, you guys. 14 fights. We broke them all down. I got my picks for all you guys here. They're all saved to my Vic Vinegar Tapology profile. Now I'm going to give you my UFC 285 tracked bets thus far. And there are only 3 so far. I'm going to hide that. But right now, we've got, let me look and see how that looks on the screen. We got the Mark Barriault money line, minus 130. 1.3 units. I just think he's the much better minute winner here. I think the pressure and the volume and the durability of Barriault will be enough to win this fight. And I think he can even get the occasional takedown if he wants to win minutes on the ground. 1.5 units, not 1 unit, but 1.5 units on the, let me edit that. So 1.5 units. And then we're going to show that. 1.5 units on the Viviane. Oh, not Viviane. Viviane. Viviane Araujo money line. Yeah, I think Vivi's got the better chance to win minutes on the ground, and I think she's got the better wrestling. And since she doesn't put herself into the clinch often, I think that her open mat striking and distance striking and her open mat wrestling are both a tick above Amanda Ribas's, and I think she finds a way to win minutes here, and I think she's the far more dangerous finisher in this spot, so I like it at even money plus 100, 1.5 units. And then I've got 1 unit on the Jalen Turner finish-only prop, plus 130. I think it's plus 150 on DraftKings, but for some reason, DraftKings wasn't letting me see that line, so I just jumped at it at plus 130 on Bet Online. 1 unit, I think Jalen Turner is 10 times more dangerous of a finisher than Mateusz Gamrot is, evidenced by his 100% finish rate, evidenced by the fact that he's starch and hose first, second round guys that are very durable, very tough fighters in Riddell, in Malaki. And he's going through them like a hot knife through butter. So I'm also going to be looking to maybe add on 1 unit on the Jalen Turner money line as well. But those are the track bets so far. I'm also going to be looking at a small stab on Jessica Penne's money line, potentially a small stab on Damon Blackshear's money line, potentially a stab on the Jalen Turner money line for sure at some point. And I'm also looking at fight doesn't go to decision for Duplessis versus Derek Brunson, and might also be taking a shot on the Derek Brunson money line at plus 200 or better. And that leaves us with the last order of business, you guys. It's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. And there's a lot of choices that are kind of just thrown out the window this week. I can't give you Valentina Shevchenko at minus 600. I can't give you Bo Nickal at minus 2,000. It's not fair for me to give you Ian Machado Garry at minus 700. So I got to find a line that's closer to sanity. And while I don't necessarily think that this guy's going to go out there and get a first round finish, I do think that we're gonna see massive levels between these two competitors here in the cage, and we're going to see one of these guys come out clearly on top, probably getting a late finish and really winning all the minutes and potentially all the moments of this fight. This week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, trying to make it 5 in a row here, is going to be Cameron Saaiman to shave the ass of Leo Mana Martinez. I just did not like what I saw on tape from Martinez. He's far too low volume. He just counts on landing that one big shot. And while he's waiting to land that big shot, he lets the fight pass him by. And it didn't it didn't hurt him in the Brandon Davis and in the Guido Canetti fights, because neither one of those guys did enough. But Cameron Saaiman throws a ton of volume. He brings a bunch of pressure and pace and volume, and hit Leo Mana's willingness to give up minutes is going to cost him against a fighter the archetype of Cameron Saaiman. I think Cameron Saaiman gets this thing done any way that he wants to, and I think he's going to show everybody on Saturday that he's the far superior fighter and that he's going to get this job done, most likely inside the distance by an attritional third-round knockout. Cameron Saaiman, South Africa, stand up. Team CIT, stand up. Pretoria, stand up. Cameron Saaiman is this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. I appreciate all of you guys for hanging out here. 94 of you live on this pay-per-view card. This is the largest audience I've had in quite a while, since before football started back in September of 2022. So I thank all of you for your attention. I thank all of you for watching, for spending your Tuesday night with your Uncle Weezy. Hit that thumbs up on your way out. Hit that subscribe if you haven't already. Please consider joining the Patreon for $5 a month to help support me in the content that I provide you guys. And if you're looking for a really good high-level analytics tool to help you out with your over-under betting, please consider subscribing to the prop template at $20 a month. The best analytical tool for MMA gamblers that are betting time props that are available right now. So thank you guys for watching. God bless each and every one of you. And let's stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC 285. I'll see you tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio, 6 o'clock Central Time for the DFS show. I'll see you tomorrow night on the Couch Warrior, his panel with Addicted to Combat, Ben the Bane Davis, and myself. And then I will be putting out a greasy 4-leg parlay for you guys on my channel this week, and potentially even a Thursday night Ask Weezy should the time present itself. But thank you guys for watching. Good luck on all your bets, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Good night.